All right, man, peace. So now this former basketball player, Gilbert Arenas, he's in a little bit of hot water right now. Not really hot water because he has money and he really doesn't have to work, so he doesn't really give a damn. But he's in a little bit of trouble right now in the social media world because of some comments that he made in regards to quote unquote African females. Now, the reason why he's in trouble is because he used the term dark-skinned females, but you'll see when you read the transcript of his commentary that he was talking about so-called African females. So we're going to go through this story, and it'll give me an opportunity to explain certain things about the difference between the so-called African female and the so-called black female of the Western Hemisphere. Because Gilbert Arenas, the number one thing that he suffers from is miseducation. All right, so now let's see how TMZ reports this story, and let's check out some of the dynamics of how they report this story.
All right, stop me if you heard this one before. Gilbert Arenas is in a lot of trouble. He said some offensive stuff, and he's quasi-apologizing this time. But the headline here is Gilbert Arenas essentially said dark-skinned black women are not beautiful, and he is catching hell for it.
Well, he's catching hell because, like I said, he's been miseducated in regards to terminology. When we go through the transcript, you're going to see that he's actually talking about the so-called African female. And being a so-called black male of the Western Hemisphere of the captivity, he has the right to a preference. Well, because he listed a preference that he has based on color as a racial designation, and you know, instead of just stating the actual race of the female that he prefers, that causes confusion. That's why, like I said, so-called black, there's no such race as black. Anybody can be so-called black. You can go to islands that are in the Pacific Ocean, like Vanuatu or Fiji, and the people there are so-called will be classified as so-called black. All right, black is not a race. But anyway, let's not digress right now. Let's see how they report this nonsense.
As he should. Right, exactly, yeah. Yeah, here's the thing. You know, Gilbert's a big social media guy.
Now, pay attention. Normally, they have the so-called black male in the middle. I believe his name is Van Jones. They normally have him bookended by two Caucasian men. Now, for this story, they decided to bring in a so-called black female, I guess because she's supposed to bring some type of expertise to the situation, allegedly. Let's see what goes on here.
Hey, there was a meme that was going around. It said, quote,
You know, before he reads the quote, let's look at what the quote says. It says here at the top, it says, you don't have to be mixed to be beautiful. And then there's somebody named Pro-Black Thought. So we already know that's a so-called liberal black. It says, your African features are all you need for attractiveness. Never tell yourself or let anyone tell you that in order to be attractive, you must be, and I guess the last term should be mixed or whatever, or light skin. We see the name Pro-Black Thought, so we know that that's most likely some type of simp, Afrocentric dude. But he says, your African features, first off, there's no such thing as African features. All right. So-called Africa is a landmass that has thousands of tribes there. They all have different phenotypes and they all have various genetic backgrounds. There's no such thing as African features. So once again, as usual, with the so-called Afrocentric, quote unquote, pro-black crowd, they're idiots. So now this dude, No Chill Gil, talking about Gilbert Arenas. He comes in trying to be a comedian. Says, how black are we talking? Not to be funny, can you name a beautiful black woman on the outside, not brown skin? See, when he says not brown skin, he's talking about the so-called black American female. All right. Our people are known for having copper-colored skin, what they call copper-colored skin. All right. He says, now, not to be funny, but can you name a beautiful black woman on the outside, not brown skin, like Tyrese Black? Top 50 most beautiful women of all time. The darkest women they have is Keisha Knight Pulliam, Gabrielle Union, who will be considered a so-called dark-skinned woman, and Serena Williams, who's also a so-called dark-skinned woman. It says when you say African features black, then you have number one, Lupita Nyong'o, and she's cute when the lights are off. Second is Azuma Nasanyana. That's the so-called model that he was referring to. All right. So his issue is with the so-called African woman. It's not with the so-called black woman, but he's been so misinformed educationally, he doesn't understand that there's a difference. So now let's see what's going on here.
You don't have to be mixed to be beautiful, and then underneath it said, your African features are all you need for attractiveness. Never tell yourself or let anyone tell you that in order to be attractive, you must be a...
So now I wonder where Mr. Pro-Black Thought lives. I wonder if he lives in America or if he lives in the quote-unquote motherland. I guarantee you he's not going to live there. He's never been there.
Be a certain shade or something like that, right?
Here's the very important message for young black and brown girls, because sometimes it seems like the most celebrated image of black beauty is lighter skin, thinner nose, thinner lips. Right.
Well, you know what's funny? The most celebrated images of so-called black beauty are lighter skin and thinner nose and thinner lips. But none of you so-called black men will tell Beyonce that she should stop wearing a blonde weave and she should stop putting on makeup to make herself look lighter. Isn't that interesting? A lot of you so-called pro-black men, you won't tell the black female to stop wearing wigs to make herself look like a so-called white woman, right? But you're gonna attack this guy who's obviously, I mean, he's an idiot. We all get that, but he's misinformed. All right, you guys won't. The so-called pro-black guy, he won't step to the so-called black female about the pro-white female images that she herself portrays. But they want to attack this guy here, who most likely grew up in a household with a black female mother who put those thoughts in his head. Because a lot of these so-called black men who run around talking about good hair and all this other nonsense, paper bag tests, they get that from their mothers.
Right. So it's nothing wrong with that.
So in itself, that seemed like a pretty harmless statement. But then Gilbert Arenas jumped in and commented, and he wrote, how black are we talking? Not to be funny, can you name a beautiful black woman on the outside? Not brown skin, like Tyrese Black.
Right. He said not brown skin. He's talking about himself and what they call the copper-colored so-called black man and woman. He said like Tyrese Black. He's talking about the so-called Africans. All right. And I'm going to show you a... when we go to the next segment, I'm going to show you the source of his confusion, because they're not the same people.
Tyrese Black, top 50 most beautiful women of all time. The darkest woman they have is Keisha Knight Pulliam. Then he goes on to trash Lupita Nyong'o, basically saying she's only cute when the lights are off.
Lupita Nyong'o is, if I remember correctly, she's a so-called Kenyan. All right, so she's the descendant of the ancient Egyptians. All right, I mean, pretty nice looking woman. I mean, it is what it is. He has the right to his preference. All right.
Off. I mean,
he's ignorant. That's basically point blank period.
Now, the so-called black female, particularly of America, whenever anyone says something that she disagrees with, the first thing that she says is that they're ignorant. All right. That's her always their initial volley, because the term ignorant, most of the time they don't even know what the word means. The word ignorant means to not know something. All right. So now Gilbert Arenas is ignorant from the standpoint that he's been misinformed about what actual race is. But if you were to ask her why is he ignorant, she's not going to tell you that. She's going to tell you that he's ignorant because he doesn't like so-called dark skinned so-called black women. And this female here is not a black woman. There's no such thing as a black woman. All right. She's of so-called Kenyan ancestry. I guarantee you, if you ask her what her tribe is, she knows what her tribe is. All right. That is her ancestry. If you were to ask the so-called black female in the bottom left what her tribe is, she does not know. I guarantee you that. So she's the one who's ignorant.
The dude got self-hatred issues. If you look...
Oh, there you go. That's another one that they like to use, self-hatred. Whenever the so-called black male expresses any type of resistance to putting a female on a pedestal, they claim that he has self-hatred. The reason why they say that is because the thought process is that the female is the originator, i.e. the black woman is God. So if they say anything critical of the so-called black female or any type of issue regarding the black female, it must be because he hates himself because he's in the image of the black female. That's the thought process, i.e. the black female is God. All right. So she's a self-worshiper, as most so-called liberal black females in America are.
You look at him, he's not the lightest person in the bunch. And then...
No, he's not light, but he's brown skin, so-called brown skin. All right. And are there extremely dark so-called blacks? Yes, there are. Of the captivity. Yes, there are. So like I said, he's been misinformed. He has issues. There's no doubt about that. But the issue with him in regards to this issue is that he does not understand the difference between the so-called African and the so-called blacks of the captivity because he's been taught that they're the same people, and they're not.
And then also, his daughter is brown skinned, so I mean...
Well, if his daughter's brown skinned, then that means that she has nothing to do with the conversation, because he distinctly said not brown skin, but Tyrese black. So why are you bringing up his daughter? Unless you're trying to, as most so-called black females do, whenever a so-called black male mentions anything about black women, bring up their mother and their daughter.
Clearly the guy has some issues. I don't understand why he even got off and why he thought this was acceptable at all to even go there.
Here's the thing. We've seen Gilbert, like,
I wonder why Kerry Washington thought it was acceptable to make a show about her being a whore for a Caucasian president. And black females outstandingly support that show. I wonder if they have issues.
Do different things, say different crazy things. Normally, it's kind of relegated to his own people. This was really a shot at black women for absolutely zero reason.
No, it wasn't a shot at so-called black women. It was him stating that he has a certain preference. He does not prefer so-called African women. All right, if you were to look up so-called East African models like the one he named, or Alec Weck, they have a certain tribal look that certain men might not find attractive. It is what it is. If you look at Lupita Nyong'o, she might have a body type or a look that certain men might not find as attractive as others. It is what it is. That's his preference. He just expressed himself wrongly because of his misinformation, his miseducation.
For absolutely no cause.
And I'm not saying he's not an idiot, because all his other actions show that he is an idiot, and most likely has depression issues similar to the statement I made about Adrian Broner. But that's a whole other topic.
He has close to 500,000 followers on his Instagram, so a lot of people heard this. I have no idea what he was thinking or why he would want to be so insulting to women of our community.
No, he wasn't insulting to the so-called women of our community, because there is no such thing as the so-called black community, because there's no such thing as a black person. None of those things exist. All those things are pretexts and delusions. All right. And Van Jones, he gets on a lot of these shows, and he talks about how he'll never get married, and how he's, a lot of times he's lusting over Caucasian and non-black women on this show. So, I mean, he's just trying to play a role right now.
It's
because he thinks it's cute when he sits there and bashes people and says hateful things. He gets a kick off of it. But this here is not cute, it's not funny, and he just shouldn't do it.
Now look, he kind of sort of apologized later. He said a woman that he respects came up to him and told him he was wrong, so he deleted the message from his Instagram. But then he started saying more offensive stuff. He says, look, at the end of the day, Lupita just ain't cute to me. Sorry. Where does this rank on the...
Right, but why is that offensive when he said that that's just not his preference? That's okay. Just like he might not be attractive to her. How is that offensive? Other than the fact that it would be offensive because he's showing that he does not worship women. All right. In this world that we live in, you're supposed to tell every female that they're attractive. If not, you're body shaming them. Right? Or you're slut shaming them. If you don't tell them, if you don't co-sign them sleeping with 500 different men.
On the list of dumb stuff that Gilbert Arenas has done in his life. Remember, he brought guns out in the locker room. He said that women shouldn't be playing basketball.
That's true. They shouldn't be playing basketball. It's absolutely correct.
He's taking shots at all sorts of people.
He's an attention seeker, though, Evan. You have to understand that. He clearly does this for attention.
Yeah, he's an attention seeker. Takes one to know one.
The time.
Because if you talk to the dude on the phone, he's as regular as it gets. But then he gets his Instagram and social media, he says all kind of tricky things to get attention.
Yeah, but I sincerely hope that he knows that trolling a group of people that really have issues with how America perceives their beauty, well, I'm talking about black women here, that don't ever get celebrated enough for how...
Are you kidding me? The black female doesn't ever get celebrated enough. They have a TV show called Black Girls Rock. Do black males have a show called Black Males Rock? Like, give me a break. Nobody has been coddled to in America more than a so-called black female. Nobody. Nobody has been coddled to more than a so-called black female. All right? And a lot of the image issues that black females have, they perpetuate for themselves. All right? You go ahead and try to tell one of these black females that they shouldn't wear weave or wigs. Right? You better have boxing skills like Floyd Mayweather, because they coming at your damn head. Like, give me a break.
for how they look. It's not funny. There's nothing funny about that. There's no way. It's nothing funny to make fun of black ladies. I think that he normally
I don't think he was making fun. I think he was just making a statement.
I don't have a problem with all of the other stupid stuff. I don't pay attention to it, but this was bad, man.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that big a deal. All right. But, you know, whenever a so-called black male speaks about the so-called black female, that will become an issue because the so-called black female is above reproach. Why is that? Because they are put on a pedestal by the so-called liberal whites as a god for the so-called black man. All right. That's why, like I said before, watch that movie Total Recall, the character of Sharon Stone. All right. That is the role that the so-called liberal black female plays in the household. Her job is to keep the so-called black man under control. All right. That is her job, to make him think that he's crazy. All of his thoughts are crazy. All right. His job is to worship her and to be a black version of the white male. That's why Gilbert Arenas is as misinformed as he is. All he knows is color as race. He doesn't know anything. All right. But anyway. But now, just to continue on with the so-called African versus so-called black theme, TMZ also had a report about Shaquille O'Neal's son playing on a team with Manute Bol's son. Now you're going to see how disparate and distinct they look from each other. Because like I stated, black is not a race.
And now a segment called Observations.
It's funny they call this segment Observations, because that's exactly what we're going to make.
Starring Van Lathan. Van.
Look, these two guys right here.
Now look at these two guys right here. You have on the left, you have Manute Bol's son. I believe his name is Bol. I don't know why they gave that man two names, two of the same name. And on the right is Shaquille O'Neal's son. Now, I'm not saying that so-called black males of the captivity are never as dark as Bol, but you can tell the difference between one and the other. All right, you can tell the difference right away. Now, they tried to make Bol look more American black, quote unquote, by giving him earrings and his hairstyle. But you can tell the difference.
Right here, they look like they're regular height in this picture. Yeah. Those are two giants. One of these guys is like 7 feet tall. The other one's like 6'9" and 6'10".
But they look like regular guys.
They look like regular little kids right there.
The dude on the right is Sharif O'Neal, and the dude on the left is Bol. Now, Sharif O'Neal is obviously Shaquille O'Neal's son, and Bol is the son of former...
Now, look at his body type also. You can tell that's a so-called African. All right? Like I said, he's a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. He comes from, like his father. His name is Bol. He's the son of Manute Bol. He comes from the Dinka tribe in the Sudan. All right. They are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. Some of those tribes are also descendants of the ancient Cushites, but they're descendants of the ancient Egyptians, the Dinka tribe, the Watusi tribe, the Maasai tribe. They are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. All right. And I say that I'm not here on some pro-black nonsense. All right. So-called black people in the Western Hemisphere, you need to stop trying to claim these people's history. You are not the Egyptians. They are. All right. Figure out what your own history is and build from there. Stop trying to steal these people's history. The descendants of the ancient Egyptians are known as the Nilotic peoples. All right.
The former NBA star Manute Bol, one of the tallest players in the history of Earth.
That's why he even said that. One of the tallest players in the history of Earth, Manute Bol. All right. The ancient Egyptians were known for their great height, their great stature.
That's right. They're now playing on the same AAU basketball team. It's like a special club basketball team. And to say it's not fair is an understatement. These guys are murdering people. There is a clip from this week of Sharif O'Neal getting an assist from Bol. Can we just play this real quick? Watch this. Watch this.
Watch out, son.
That is Bol and Sharif O'Neal, and it's Sharif O'Neal.
Guess what? The difference between you and me is your dad was an accountant, and my father was Shaquille O'Neal. Look at this. Watch out, kid. Watch out. Get out of the way.
I mean.
All right, now we're in the middle of this segment with Manute Bol's son. Now, one of the announcers here, or the commentators here for TMZ, is going to make a statement about Manute Bol. And it's in regards to a cultural practice that they had in the ancient world for manhood. Now watch what he says.
Wait. Manute Bol killed a lion with a spear.
So he said that he killed a lion with a spear. That was a ritual for manhood in the ancient world. That still is maintained by the Dinka tribe, because once again they are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians.
Is that true?
Okay, that is true.
Really?
That is a true story. Manute Bol killed a lion with a spear.
Do we have video of him killing a lion with
But the reports are wide. It's a very famous story.
that he killed a lion with a spear?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Well, that's more important than that. That's more impressive than that.
What's the more impressive feat of athleticism? Killing a lion with a spear or doing what Bobo did in that video?
Evan, are you sure this Manute Bol thing is not something you heard your dad and his friends say?
Let me check on that, actually. Hang on a second. Boom! Wikipedia said the lion attacked his cow, so he grabbed his spear and he got
That
bit.
sounds like one of those things that...
Right. So point being, please understand the difference between so-called Africans and the so-called black people of the captivity. All right. It's a major difference. They are not the same people. And it's the cause of a lot of confusion. All right. Peace.